Today, you will meet the story of Laura, a woman who believed that love demanded the total sacrifice of herself. She spent years building her fiancé's empire, giving up her own dreams under the pretext of being a partner. But the night before the wedding, in front of hundreds of guests, the fiancé tried to publicly humiliate her. What Daniel didn't know was that, while he was planning his betrayal, Laura was planning her legal revenge. This is a story of control, fraud, unmasking, and the overwhelming strength that is born when a woman finally decides to be the owner of her own destiny. Watch until the end to discover how Laura transformed the night of her social failure into the day of her greatest professional and personal victory. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this story of poetic justice. Laura was 35 and Daniel 37. They lived in a high-end apartment in the most valuable area of Sao Paulo, now New York City for context. In the eyes of society, they were the perfect couple. She, a talented but discreet architect; he, a successful entrepreneur in the financial technology sector, charismatic and ambitious. The wedding was set for 3 months away, with a celebration promising to be the social event of the year. But the solidity of that relationship was, in fact, a structure built on thin sand, sustained solely by Laura's silent sacrifice. Daniel was a master of the subtle art of psychological manipulation. He didn't yell or slam doors like Ricardo's wife in the previous story. His method was more insidious, veiled disdain. Laura had postponed opening her own architecture studio for 4 years, convinced by Daniel that it was smarter to invest her intellectual capital and time supporting the expansion of TechFin, his company. "We are a team, my love," he would say, as he put her to manage complex office cost spreadsheets, tasks far beneath her qualifications. When she tried to express an idea for a new personal project, he would look at her over his thin-framed glasses and reply with a condescending smile, "How cute, dear. Always with these craftsman ideas of yours. Leave the heavy business to me. You take care of the aesthetics of our life." One of the most striking episodes in their relationship was financial management. Although they had joint accounts for household expenses, Daniel insisted on having absolute control over larger investments. 6 months prior, when Laura learned of an unmissable investment opportunity in a small real estate fund in Portugal, something she researched alone that promised a safe return, Daniel reacted with coldness. He didn't explode. He simply scoffed. "You are reading too many foreign websites, Laura. That's unnecessary risk. Let me handle our capital. You know my instinct is better." He used the money earmarked for the entrance hall renovation, Laura's project, to make a risky acquisition for TechFin, which he would later classify as a strategic triumph, ignoring her original plan. Despite this oppressive control, Laura clung to the idea that great men have big egos, and that the stability Daniel provided was worth the price. She held on to the luxurious trips, the sophisticated dinners where she was the impeccable hostess, and the rare moments when he showed genuine affection, which served as the fuel to endure the months of coldness. However, the strain was taking a heavy toll. The aura of stability she projected was crumbling inside. She had become a shadow, a luxury executor of Daniel's life. In the last 2 months, the tension had increased. Daniel began having frequent late-night meetings at the office, and his cell phone was always screened down. Laura, who never dared to snoop before, began to feel a shiver down her spine. A silent intuition, the voice she had silenced for years, started whispering that something was terribly wrong. The key to the truth didn't come from a fight, but from her professional competence. TechFin was undergoing an internal audit for a Series B investment round. Since Laura had helped structure the office's financial layout and had access to secondary systems for projecting expansion budgets, she noticed a series of recurring and unusual transfers to a corporate account that did not match any known supplier. With the patience Daniel had taught her to have in pressurized situations, Laura, using basic forensic software she had at home to monitor projects, tracked the recipient, a newly opened digital marketing consultancy registered under the name of Patricia Campos, Daniel's newly promoted and enigmatic junior partner. The physical betrayal was painful, but the financial betrayal, the diversion of money that was theirs, that was hers, robbed her of the ability to simply cry. That diversion wasn't just a slip-up, it was proof that Daniel saw her as a resource to be exploited until the very end, not as a partner. He wasn't just cheating, he was robbing her while keeping her busy arranging table flowers. The decision was made in that instant. If her life was being dismantled in secret, Daniel's exposure would be a total public act. The party for their 10-year relationship and 2-year engagement was planned to be the pinnacle of the couple's false prosperity. Daniel insisted it be a grand event, a success show. Laura agreed to everything, but with one crucial difference: she rewrote the script. She kept the luxurious ballroom in Manhattan. She invited hundreds of people: Daniel's parents, who were traditionalists and severe about public image; Laura's parents, who loved her unconditionally; Daniel's business partners, friends who had witnessed his jokes about her naivety; and, of course, Patricia Campos, who was former formally invited as an important business partner and the new creative mind behind Daniel's recent success. An irony Laura secretly savored. Laura was stunning in a white dress, the one she would have worn to the wedding, but with a more modern, almost challenging cut. She smiled, sipped champagne, and held Daniel's hand firmly. The atmosphere was one of controlled euphoria. Daniel, at the height of his ego, felt victorious. He believed Laura was finally accepting her secondary role completely. After the gala dinner, as the musicians prepared to play the waltz rehearsed for the couple of the year, Laura asked for the floor, a glint in her eye that Daniel, in his arrogance, interpreted as bridal happiness. Laura held her champagne glass, feeling the coldness of the drink contrast with the fire of her resolve. She walked firmly to the center of the stage, where a gigantic LED screen displayed a slideshow of the couple's photos. Daniel followed her, confused by the anticipation in her eyes, but still smiling at the guests, thinking she was about to give a touching thank you speech. He took the microphone from her, ready to take control, as always. Daniel, in a loud voice, intoxicated by his own importance, "My dear Laura, thank you for this spectacular evening. It is proof that we are on the right path to." Laura, with unexpected agility, took the microphone back. Her smile was icy, an absolute contrast to the image of the radiant bride. "Laura, forgive me, Daniel. I need to take over from here. Tonight is not about us. It's about the truth you worked so hard to bury." Daniel's smile froze. The guests fell silent, sensing the abrupt shift in tone. "Laura, many of you came to celebrate 10 years of partnership and the future marriage between Techfin and Laura's dream. But Daniel, you forgot that I, Laura, am not just the decoration of your life. I am an architect. I analyze structures. And your structure, Daniel, is rotten." She pressed a button on her tablet, discreetly placed on the microphone stand. The romantic slideshow vanished, replaced by a complex, brightly colored graph on the LED panel. "Laura, for those who don't understand balance sheets, this graph illustrates the non-essential operating expenses account for Techfin over the last 10 months. Looks harmless, right? But look at the red column. Those are the monthly payments to the Patricia Campos consultancy." Murmurs immediately began. Daniel stared at the panel in panic, gesticulating desperately for Laura to stop. "Daniel, Laura, this is ridiculous. Stop immediately. This is confidential company information." Laura, ignoring him, addressing the audience, "Patricia Campos, please stand up. Our guest of honor." Patricia, seated at the table with close friends, hesitated. She tried to look calm, but her face was pale. "Laura, Patricia, thank you for helping me organize the party. You did a great job marketing my fiancé's company. The problem is that you aren't just a consultant. You are the mistress, the recipient of our investment funds, and the collector of assets Daniel bought with the money I helped raise." Chaos erupted. Daniel's parents, who were minority shareholders and extremely concerned with image, stood up with expressions of shock and betrayal. Daniel's father, "Daniel, what does this mean?" "Patricia, you are under investigation." Daniel, cornered, attempted one last resort, attacking Laura. Daniel, shouting, trying to sound like the victim, "This is madness. She is sick. She couldn't accept that I am the leader here. I was just protecting our future. She is hysterical and naive." The word naive was the last straw. Laura smiled, a smile born from 10 years of repressed pain. "Laura, naive? Want to see what I did with that naivety, Daniel?" She pressed another button. The screen changed again. Now, it displayed a photo of a Portuguese investment contract, with Daniel's signature forged, and right below it, a bank statement showing the transfer of almost all of the couple's liquid capital to an account in her own name, dated 1 week prior. "Laura, while you were calling me stupid and diverting our money to Patricia, I was protecting myself. What did you think my investments in Portugal were? It was my escape route. The money you spent on your mistress and this ridiculous party, I have already recovered it, legally and discreetly. I didn't cheat on you with another man. I cheated on you with the law and the truth." The silence that followed was different from the initial shock. It was the silence of a verdict. Daniel's family realized he wasn't just an adulterer, he was a fraudster. Laura's mother, who had been crying softly, stood up, proud. Laura's mother, "Laura, my angel, you did the right thing. We always knew that man didn't deserve you. Your intelligence is greater than his ego." Daniel was pale, speechless, looking from Laura to the screen, watching his reputation being dismantled in real time. Patricia, realizing the imminent financial disaster, grabbed her purse and hastily left the ballroom without even looking back. The deathly silence in the ballroom was broken by the sound of cell phone cameras. The spectacle was being broadcast, recorded, and archived in real time. Daniel, desperately trying to regain control, took a step toward Laura, his eyes red with fury and despair. "Daniel, you will pay for this. Laura, you signed papers. I will sue you for defamation, for sabotage." Laura maintained her posture, her tone now returning to professional and cold, as if dictating technical specifications to a contractor. "Laura, you can sue me for anything you want. Daniel, you have the right to sink think even further. But I suggest you start calling your lawyer, not mine, because the documents you saw on the screen are not just defamation. They are proof of fraud and the unilateral breach of the informal partnership agreement I held with you for years, waiving my right to returns on the initial capital. The lawsuit awaiting you won't be about who slept with whom, but about who robbed whom. Daniel's family's reaction was decisive. His own father, a man known for his business integrity, pulled Daniel aside, visibly ashamed. Daniel's father, enough. Daniel, you have destroyed our name. The Series B audit is gone. Patricia has disappeared, and you are being sued for embezzlement. Don't look back. Get out of here now and talk to our lawyer. You will not touch this woman. Amid the confusion, Laura's parents approached. Her mother embraced her tightly, and her father, a university professor who always suspected Daniel's arrogance, squeezed his daughter's shoulder with silent admiration. Laura's father, you finally used your head, daughter. To him, you were an appendix. To us, you were always the brilliant mind. The party is over. Let's go home. Laura looked at Daniel one last time. He seemed smaller, stripped of all his dominant businessman posturing. Laura, I have nothing more to say to you, Daniel. Our formal union ends here. My professional life starts now. And your legal nightmare, Daniel, is just beginning. She handed the apartment keys to an aide of her own lawyer, who was discreetly present at the party, and left the ballroom hand in hand with her parents, under the gazes of hundreds of people who witnessed the spectacular downfall of an empire built on lies. The silent rebuilding. In the following days, the bottom fell out for Daniel. The investment round was cancelled. The fraud scandal, amplified by the betrayal exposed at the event, caused an immediate credibility crisis at TechFin. Laura, on the other hand, acted with the same surgical precision with which she exposed the fraud. She didn't waste time mourning. Following the plan she had already detailed on her tablet, she used the legal evidence obtained to initiate the divorce and restitution process. The legal process. Daniel's defense tried, as expected, to shift the focus to Daniel's public humiliation, trying to allege moral damages and emotional destabilization to force Laura into a friendly settlement in exchange for dropping the financial accusations. Laura's lawyer was relentless. He presented the history of psychological abuse and the evidence of financial diversion. He argued that Daniel's public exposure was not an act of malice, but a necessity of defense against the financial ruin orchestrated by him, validated by the testimony of his own family regarding his lack of character. The judge was emphatic. The breach of trust and capital diversion were serious. Daniel's claim for moral damages was denied, as the court considered that he reaped what he sowed by betraying and attempting to defraud his fiancé. The divorce was swift, and Laura managed to recover not only the capital she had invested but also a significant amount in compensation for the time and career potential she had given up. The flight to Milan, with the process concluded and Daniel facing moral and financial bankruptcy, Patricia had disappeared, and he lost control of the company to older shareholders. Laura didn't hesitate. She packed her bags, accepted the formal invitation from the Italian design school, and left. She wasn't running away from a problem. She was moving toward her opportunity. Daniel's final fall, without a job, social reputation, or with serious legal issues, Daniel watched his world collapse. He tried to contact Laura several times, but communication only happened through lawyers. In one of the rare instances he got direct contact, it was to beg, not for forgiveness, but for a temporary loan, claiming TechFin was restructuring. Laura, who would have given in out of fear before, responded coldly, "The only restructuring you need is in your morals, Daniel. I am too busy building my own empire. Goodbye." Daniel lost the apartment, which was sold to cover debts. He moved back in with his parents, where he was constantly reminded of the fiasco. The woman he called naive was signing multi-million-dollar contracts in Europe, while he faced dishonor in the city that once celebrated him. Months passed since that fateful night in the ballroom. The divorce was finalized, and the court ruling was clear. Daniel was guilty of fraud and breach of trust. He didn't just lose his fiancée and his reputation. He lost the financial stability he had used so much as a tool of control. Laura, on the other hand, was in Milan. Her studio was thriving, and she was working on projects she had once only dared to dream about. The white dress, which was meant for Daniel's altar, ironically became the uniform of her liberation. She regretted nothing. The silence she had maintained for years had taught her a brutal lesson. Peace obtained through submission is only the prelude to greater pain. Daniel, isolated, watched from afar the success of the woman he tried to diminish. The stage he thought would be the setting for his triumph became the courtroom that judged his lack of character. This man, who boasted of his business cunning, was surpassed by the intelligence and patience of the one he considered naive. Laura's story teaches us that the most destructive betrayal is not just physical, but the betrayal of another's potential. True power lies not in controlling others, but in knowing when and how to break free from the hand that tries to hold you back. And sometimes, the best response to public humiliation is irrefutable proof that you were always 3 steps ahead, and And you, what would you have done upon discovering the fraud? Would you have exposed everything on stage, or would you have acted discreetly? Leave your opinion in the comments. If you enjoyed this story of justice and triumph, leave your like and subscribe for more great content.